A new person.
Yes, actually,
New to me, anyway.
Larry, how are you?
this is Izzy, Silvana waving now,
Hi,
Larry with the
everybody.
glasses and the slick back hair, Steve Duke with the blue background. So, and
Hi, everybody.
these are some of our core members, our most active members. So, guys,
Awesome.
this is Izzy. Izzy is thanks for jumping on. Izzy's doing a great job. We're busy working on the Clarity Level 1 report, and it is almost ready to it's 95% done. So, or
Yay.
this iteration, you know me. This iteration is 95% done. So
I'm very excited to finish it and get it out. And it's also
yeah,
really nice to meet all of you, put names to faces.
yeah, absolutely. So we've been cranking through a stack of we have a list called the monster list that we've been cranking through, and Izzy's doing a great job of getting things off of my desk. So thanks.
How,
Um,
how long, George? How long before the monster becomes the little mouse list?
it will never become the little mouse list. As my former wife Tracy, my first wife, mother of my children, Tracy famously said, George, you're never going to be done. It's like, well, okay, that's a good point.
But isn't that the beauty of life? Because if you're done, that means that you have nothing else to look forward to or solve.
Yeah, well, and it's always, solving one, this is why we analyze, design, execute, analyze, design, execute, analyze, design, execute. It's a cycle. Life's a cycle. As soon as we complete, um, one project, there's another one that presents itself. And if there isn't, then are you innovating? And, are you innovating? Are you doing the things that need to be done to grow a business?
You mean you're eating your own cooking?
I am eating and very much eating my own cookie, imperfectly, as most, what is it? The attorney who's his own client has a fool for, the doctor without the shoeless shoemaker, et cetera. Yeah.
Yeah.
But we're very much, but Steve, I do focus on the three dimensions of growth. We are obviously very focused on dimension one and dimension two, and and doing pretty well. But we're blowing last year out of the water. And just added a great new member to the community yesterday, a gentleman named Keith Coe, COE. His advisory business is called Coe, period. Oh,
It is
Silvana,
wonderful.
yeah, he's another one. He is like Carl Cox. Keith is a favorite of private equity groups who call him and say, "Okay, listen, we need you to really be the co-driver." When we were talking just yesterday, what he was describing was being that co-driver that we describe inside the community. By the way, if you have never watched, maybe I'll post it on social. If you have never watched footage of a rally driver and co-driver and listen to their communications, you owe it to yourself because it's very analogous to the role we play. The co-driver says very little, but what they say is deeply impactful, like, 45-degree left now. And the driver reacts with pure trust. It's really cool when you have two people who are clicking like that. So
Yeah, I just got into watching F1 racing, Formula One racing recently because one of my clients is big, and I also have another client that sponsors NASCARs. And so uh, I've always understood NASCAR, but now Formula One, which is really great. So that
F1 is,
communication is incredible.
you know what? I'll post today. F1 is incredible and has an incredible history. The amount of technology that comes out of Formula One is astounding. And when you start following it, hey, Bill, Bill, you know, I think the house behind you, is that a Vermont picture? No?
Wisconsin.
Wisconsin? Man, it looks like Norwich, Vermont. There's a road that crosses the hill right behind town that is covered. It looks like a friend's house. Anyway, Formula's leading the way. They've thrown down the gauntlet and they want to shift to, they tried e-cars for a while. But if we're being honest with ourselves, e-cars are not the future. And they're making a commitment to hydrogen that is driving the technology that comes out of Formula One is akin to the technology that comes out of space programs. It's incredible. So I'll get off my dad, when I was a kid, I'll post it. I wrote it up. My dad was recruited to the Porsche team in 1960, and his sister had died and his mother begged him. It was much more dangerous than it is today. And his mother begged him to not do it. And he didn't. But I grew up going to Nivelles and Spa-Francorchamps all the time, and watching Jackie Ickx and Niki Lauda and all of those cats. And back in the day, guys, we would sit on a tarpaulin on the grass behind hay bales and watch the race with literally cotton stuffed in our ears.
It's loud.
It was wild. Yeah.
There was one for 1 year at the Meadowlands in New Jersey, and I went to it. It was a great event. I don't remember.
You know, it's a great track that you could get to is Watkins Glen. Fantastic track. I don't know if they're running Formula there. They did years ago. But anyway.
I don't think anymore, but yeah.
So, but a team sport, you know, not team sport in the way we think of soccer, but God, the incredible collaboration and innovation in Formula. And if you haven't seen the trailer for Brad Pitt's new movie F1 that's coming out next summer, they dropped the trailer 2 days ago. I'll pop it in the community. It's cool. It's cool because you know what? There are a lot of I'm riffing. I'm sorry. I'll stop. Too much coffee, 10 hours of sleep, and then 2 big double espressos. But Brad Pitt in the movie plays an older driver who is looking for a second act, right? And that's true of a lot of us. We've had a successful career, and now we come into advising because we have all of that experience, and we know we can make it count. We know we can leave a positive mark, and there's a definite analogy there. Okay, I'll stop. So Izzy, this is not a typical conversation.
George, real quick.
Sure.
Co.
Yes.
Did he join Growth Drive?
He did.
Okay. I just want to know because I want to connect with him on LinkedIn. Okay, thank you.
Great. And he knows. So, Silvana, the value growth QB. I like it. You threw me off when I looked. Silvana, you know Keith very well. How would you describe Keith?
I'm really impressed with Keith. Keith, he has been working for the last few years, but in general for quite a while. And basically what he's doing is he is creating a platform for home services businesses. So think of HVAC and plumber and so on behalf of PE companies. So basically he is consolidating several different local businesses into one. And my understanding is the value proposition is that he is letting them do what they do best. However, he's working on the back end to streamline and optimize the infrastructure, the marketing, the appointment setting, and billing and so on. And I think that he will be an excellent addition to our conversation because he has had hands-on experience on the marketing side. So him and I talked a lot, and I've been doing similar things as far as like how to use digital footprint to increase your brand positioning as well as to move from brand development to lead gen. So that's what he's great at. And I have a lot of respect for him. He's done some work for, a couple of other companies that are really big and huge here in the area as an advisor. But I think that the last 2 or 3 years has been this, working with PE firms and consolidating. Apparently, it's a big boom. The home services business is the HVACs and everything else. So,
yep. Yeah, very cool.
I like him a lot. He's a quick thinker, and him and I riff very well when it comes to the way that we look at things. But he'll be a great addition to Growth Drive.
Yeah. I'm psyched that we earned his business. Yeah, man. So what's on everyone's mind?
Well, in case anyone's listening to the recording, I'll just observe that George is also eating his cooking, because he's demonstrating one of the key issues within Growth Drive, and he's trying to become less than the octopus owner. Yeah. And Izzy is sitting there, and she is unloading some of the work from George so that he can be more productive and concentrate on some of the more high level issues.
Yeah. Yes, and doing a great job. And Steve, that's absolutely right. The other thing that we're going to start, you're going to see some other additions here relatively quickly, and because there are things that are not they're very important and need to get done, and that's why I do them, and now Izzy is helping do them, and Izzy's coming up to speed incredibly quickly because she's smart. And Steve, that's a great point. And that is one of the things that when you go back, and I work inside the analysis, sort of all day, every day, it's at least up here, but I'm often working in it. And adding efficiency to the operation is critical. So thanks for pointing that out, man. We all do it. Right? With virtual assistants, with our partners, with for example, Larry, you're in a couple of different groups that support each other, right? And more collaborative, but yeah. Let's pick up on that point. Thank you, Steve. I had a conversation yesterday with a very productive meeting with Fletcher Brown, who is the CEO, and he's the operator at BEI, the Business Enterprise Institute, home of the CEXP, Certified Exit Planner designation. Catch them at exitplanning.com. And we're putting on a workshop. You talk about collaboration. We're putting on a workshop on the first day of their conference, which is in August. And on that first day, we're going to workshop several topics, 3 dominant things and then 2 ancillary things. But the subtext, or the glue, is collaboration, and collaboration in the marketing phase, and collaboration amongst advisors in the sales phase, in helping a client understand why it might be a good idea to engage in the things that we do, right? Because most of BEI's members are wealth and insurance advisors, and they're smart, dedicated people who do not do what we do. And we're going to we're going to spend a full day workshopping in a very positive way those issues. And it won't surprise you that the CEO workshop marketing event is a centerpiece, is one of the key focuses of that workshop. We're going to have a lot of fun. But collaboration between advisors, but then collaboration between communities, and how do we together have 1 + 1 = 3 or 4, and we clearly are doing that. So exciting stuff. If anyone's interested, I have a first register for the Growth Drive Summit, and I'm going to blog this week about the exit planning aspects of our conference. And if you also want to go to another conference, he said selfishly, the BEI conference is going to be a good one. About 150 people at the Four Seasons in Denver. So, and we're a major sponsor of it this year. And BEI is recognizing that and being really great about the strategic relationship between our two organizations. So exciting stuff.
George, what's the date in August?
I'm gonna shoot from the hip. 11, 12, and 13. It's a Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. Monday is their pre-show, and then Tuesday and Wednesday is their conference. Their conference is most full day Tuesday, and then until about 2:30 on Wednesday. But a lot of the participants come in on at least 80 of the participants will be in two workshops on Monday. One is updates and exit planning that's put on by John Brown, the founder and the man who invented exit planning. And the workshop that Fletcher and I are putting on, which is a real focus on collaborative business development. So
cool, good, thanks.
Yeah, sure. And guys, we have some tremendous. We're going to have a great conference here in Charleston in September. The list of attendees is cool. We're very, very well subscribed. I think it'll be one of our biggest conferences. It'll be our biggest conference for sure. It already is our biggest conference since the pandemic, and it'll approach our top performance pre-pandemic.
I hope everyone here could go. It's going to be a great conference.
Yeah.
So,
and there are a lot of people, guys, there are a lot of new folks who are not in the community, but who are really interested in what we're doing. Investment bankers, wealth advisors, and you'd expect me to say this, but it's going to be a killer conference, guys. We're going to have a great time, and you'll take away a ton. I promise.
Silvana, I hope you could come because you, John, and Ron added so much value to last year's conference. It was great.
Ron is coming with Brigitte.
Thank you so much. I will be coming.
Silvana's in. Silvana, you're making me twitch to go look at my list. So
I'll always be there for you.
I appreciate it. I've got to get Yetman. Yetman has said yes, but needs to register.
He's busy posting on LinkedIn. He's like
yeah, he's very active.
Yeah,
he's very active. Love having all these voices in the room, though, right? And we'll take full advantage of that. For those of you watching this recording, hey Izzy, today let's post this one. Let's be sure to post.
Sounds good. Up and running.
On Monday morning, Larry and I are putting on, ladies and gentlemen watching this from the comfort of your home, Larry and I are going to put on a workshop, a clarity deep dive. And kids, the elegant above the water, very complicated below the water simulator is 99% there. It's below the waterline. It's a big one. You get some really cool. It doesn't matter. It's very cool. And I was hoping to release it last week. We've got a couple of tweaks that the guys are working on right now, and then we have the leadership module I keep talking about. That's actually being coded right now. And so Larry and I are going to walk through the whole. We'll have to pick what we're going to talk about, right, Larry? But we'll.
Is that a public event, George?
Meaning, yeah, well, yes. If you've already registered for the conference, or if you register before the end of July, the bonus session is included in your registration. It's Monday morning. We'll kick it off, 9:30. And it says 9:30, but I'm wondering if we actually should do it at 9. If we're all going to be there, why not use the time productively?
Yeah, no one's flying in probably Monday morning to make that. So they'd be in Sunday night.
Yeah, nobody. Yeah, if you're flying in, you're not going to make it. That's why, I just want to honor not chewing into people's weekends. But if you're going to chew into your weekend, let's make it productive. You know, sitting around the hotel pool, while lovely, well, you're going to have a good time. This hotel, I mean, the Vendu, who doesn't love the Vendu, right? Mills House is a different type of hotel. It's a Hilton Curio. And you know, it has a pool with a bar area, and then down below it also has a big courtyard with bar service and a big fire. So if there's a little chill in the air, we can be out there, and we're gonna have a ton of fun, as we always do. So I'm excited. Like I said, I'll be blogging about that on Thursday.
The weather will be great then in
And the
September.
weather typically, yeah, we got to cross no hurricanes, but the weather in September is usually, and that's right when the heat breaks. It's going to be so. What else?
Hey, George, I'll mention an item of interest, I guess. I know it's going to be a topic at the conference as well, but so I'm involved in this AI group. Meet once a month and do stuff. I mostly watch. Well, let me rephrase it. I always watch, but so yesterday was the monthly meeting, and on the fly, the leader of the group created a bot, and we did a mock LinkedIn Live with the bot serving as the host of the LinkedIn Live event. And suffice it to say, it did an excellent job. It gave the opening remarks. It prompted Joe when appropriate. It answered questions, yada, yada, yada. So that was pretty impressive. Another thing, just on the fly, he did create a facilitator bot. And the facilitator bot wasn't quite as perfect, but the facilitator, you know, there was a dozen people in the Zoom meeting, and the facilitator bot went around the room and asked us to introduce ourselves, no more than 30 seconds, and then asked other questions and whatnot. So that was just one example of what went on in yesterday's event, but
Yeah.
pretty impressive.
Yep.
What is that group, please?
It's called the AI Business Development Circle. It's they'll put your email or something in the chat, and I'll send you some information.
Great, thanks.
But it's a marathon, but it's once a month. It's 3 hours of getting fire hosed with everything you wanted to know about AI, but weren't even smart enough to ask.
That's a lot
Cool.
of AI. It feels like the leading AI tools are becoming more useful. They're getting smarter. It'll be interesting to see how it plays out. But
yeah, I've got a tiny little LinkedIn post on AI today, and after not today, sometime this week, I've got to post a LinkedIn post going out on AI, and every one of these meetings I go to, I get blown away, but the essence of the post is the fact that if you're looking for out of the box and outstanding, that's not AI's specialty. Grok and ChatGPT and Claude, etc. The LLMs, they learn on what the average response is. So typically what you're going to get. So it's best suited for, you know, conventional wisdom or conventional knowledge.
yeah.
As opposed to out of the box thinking. But here's a hint. And typically in these once a month meetings, we typically do this, but one way to make your content better is you get your get lined up with ChatGPT, Claude, Perplexity, Grok, the other two or three, and post your prompt in one, and then go down the line and keep enhancing it or getting different viewpoints. The same as this group. Someone might throw out an idea, and then someone else will come and add to it or subtract to it or whatever. So do the same thing with the LLMs as well.
Yeah, throwing a post in several of them is a really good idea, and asking follow-up questions. Defining is, yeah, Steve, that's really good advice. And again, AI isn't going to invent anything, but it does do a heck of a job with first drafts, with refining, with bringing in additional ideas. It's not going to create an idea, but it will find an idea that it thinks may be relevant and bring it into the conversation. Perplexity is killer at that.
Yeah.
Izzy and I are, it's Ask Perplexity, and even on things that you wouldn't think. So.
Yeah, I turn to Perplexity, umpteen times a day these days.
Yeah.
I heard Perplexity just yesterday on a call is quite good for the things we do.
Yeah.
I haven't played with it. I have it queued up to start learning how to use it better.
Well, and we are loading, I've said this publicly, we are creating or have created a growth drive GPT. It is not up to speed yet, but we will publish it and make it available to you guys. And then as we use it as a community, imagine what that'll be able to do for you.
Yeah, I think this field is perfect application of the chat GPTs of the world, because for the most part, fixing a business is conventional thinking. It's what everyone should do, but don't do.
Yeah.
So that's a perfect fit. Not that you still can't make it better and come up with some unique ideas, but in general, doing something according to the textbook is going to be helpful.
You just given me an idea, Steve. I'm going to post in chat. Anybody want to workshop a concept, if you're willing? I just put in the chat an important paragraph out of the new report. And I'm not struggling with it. I'm pretty clear on it, but it's on a page called Taking Action. And we tease out the fundamental role of the CEO. And so I'm not worried about the first sentence. That's my perspective, and it's not going to change. But then there's the follow-on, and those of you who know the methodology and the growth driving objectives will recognize it here. But there are a couple of words here that I don't think are perfect. So if we look at the second sentence, working with the shareholders, the CEO must clarify strategic intent, aka the value that must be reached. So if we're going to maximize value can be measured in a number of different ways. Good morning, Joe. Does the CEO? So we're wearing several. So our typical client's wearing several hats, right? They're the shareholder. Let's just make it simple. They're the shareholder. They're the chief executive officer, and they are also the president, the operator, right? And they may be also doing other things, but they often, or maybe even more often than not, hold those three roles. What is the CEO, the chief executive function? This word clarify, I'm not sure is.
No.
Yeah.
What brings you pause with the clarify, so I can understand a little bit better?
So if the shareholders must define what the business is going to deliver, right? Then they would then entrust the CEO with creating the strategy and leading execution of the strategy to achieving that must deliver, that strategic intent. We intend for this business to blank. And I've brought in, by the way, one of my favorite guys, General Mathis, and his concept. I mean, I know it's a military, well-used military concept, but he talks about it a lot in his book, Call Sign Chaos. Great summary. He talks about the commander's intent. So does Fred Frank's commander's intent, the importance of phase lines. These guys are insanely intelligent and have a broad education. And I'll just get on my soapbox from you. We're talking about people with doctorates in divinity, with doctorates in philosophy. The military doesn't send them to get doctorates in death. They send them to get doctorates in humanity. And the concept of the commander's strategic intent is incredibly powerful. And it's powerful because it is empowering to those under. And the US military, in contrast to, for example, the Russian military, the commander has to write a very tight statement of intent and then delegate achieving that intent to their staff and through their staff to the field. So I'm not sure the word clarify, if the shareholders are defining their intent for the business, and the CEO is to design strategy and lead the execution of the strategy, the execution, then I'm not sure the word clarify is the right verb here.
Right.
And I'm not sure that sentence is well structured. But do you see my philosophical challenge?
When you say shareholders, you're talking literally who? Other owners of the company or
the same person, right? I am the shareholder currently of Growth Drive, right? And I am also the CEO of Growth Drive. I am also the CRO, the CMO, the CFO.
But you're not saying stakeholders.
I'm saying shareholders specifically.
Okay.
The intent of the stakeholders is important, but that's an entirely separate topic. Silvana, fire away.
I think the way you are thinking works well for a company that doesn't have multiple shareholders. In my previous experience as one of the Cs on a company that had shareholders, I think that this particular sentence, it's really right on the money. And here it is why. The shareholders were part of the board of directors, and at least the major ones, because there were like a bouquet of the smaller ones that didn't basically play much of a role, but there were like 2 or 3 shareholders that were huge, huge, meaning had a significant enough shares that they had to affect or need to be on the know or need to set the direction of the company. They were not specific enough to clarify or to set the strategic intent. So, and to me, strategic intent is very complicated. It's not just, we're going to grow this much. It is like, we're going to grow this much within this, specific niche, doing X, Y, and Z. And so in that context, clarifying, it's the job of the CEO. He is sort of the person that stands between those shareholders and the company and what he's leading. This is how I take it. So in that context, clarify, actually, I like it because it actually signals that somebody is listening to shareholders. However, it is their job to take what they're saying, understand it, repeat it back, clarify it, set it in stone, and then build a strategic direction that fits that. Because we start with understanding in coaching. You first understand, and then you analyze and act. So if I were to put that on, that makes sense.
Yes. And the fact that the shareholders don't have their act together, I mean, that's now we get into, okay, well, the board of directors,
I'm in the meeting.
that's the role of the board of directors.
It's over. Okay.
And, and if the shareholders are going in 14 directions, as we might see in a family business, right?
Okay.
Then, it's the board of directors, but there often isn't one. But I'm really trying to. So Silvana, you're absolutely spot on, and we have a couple of suggestions here. Steve said, communicate. And Steve, I replaced communicate with clarify, and then I was like, that's not right. And Larry has added sets gains buy-in and leads. Sets. Working with the shareholders, the CEO sets gains buy-in and leads. Zeroing in. Izzy added articulate, right? The CEO must articulate strategic intent, which is in the communicate.
I'll throw out a couple more 2 cents just for the heck of it.
Thanks, Joe.
So in theory, the CEO is not God or the equivalent thereof. Strategic intent is likely or perhaps should.
By the way, don't tell them that, Steve.
Right. Well, if they are God, then they may occasionally have some dysfunction within the organization. But anyway, there probably ought to be an annual meeting where the CEO and all the lieutenant get together and they hash out what the strategic intent is. And once it's hashed out, then the CEO can be, the guy with the bullhorn and communicate, articulate, and drive forward that strategic intent for everyone within the organization.
And you're hitting on the execution leadership system, and I agree with you. But I think there are actually 2 annual meetings, right? There's a meeting of, let's just call it the board of directors representing the shareholders, or it's the shareholders, or it's the family, whatever. An annual meeting to say, this is where we said where we're going, and here's where we are, and is that we're still where we're going? But that's why this is where we're going needs to be set so carefully, because we don't want to be shucking and jiving every year, right? This is a multi-year. We're talking about the orderly growth of the business, sustainable growth of the business. And how many times have we seen it? I've lived it. You guys have been with me as I've lived the here's where we are today. Well, I don't want to hear about here's where we are today. Where are we going? And I like innovation, but shucking and jiving all these different strategic directions doesn't work. So Steve, spot on. And in the
Attaboy, George.
Just waiting. Attaboy. That's funny. And in the execution leadership system, we have an annual meeting, and that annual meeting is strategic, but it's an annual meeting of the SLT. And I would argue that you want to expand that, maybe not to, there should be an annual meeting at which we have an annual meeting with a senior leadership team and other key players, right? In the company. And there should be an annual meeting where we share what was discussed in that meeting with the whole business, with the rank and file, right? Mm-hmm. So Steve, I thoroughly agree. And then we need to have, quarterly meetings, which are strategic true-ups, monthly meetings, which is where strategy meets tactics, and weekly meetings, which are tactical. We have our business flow and we are punching on these, and hopefully we're driving the numbers where we want to. And when we're not, the CEO, her role is to simply say, why? Why is cash flow down? Why aren't we getting any leads? Why is customer satisfaction down? But I'm digressing. I want to stay on this topic.
This is excellent. I think we're all very well schooled in understanding the term strategic intent. Not everyone always is. So it needs some definition, and in either in the broad sense or the more specific sense. So this is exactly what I did yesterday with a client, a healthcare communications, $6-7 million revenue business. The CEO has 2 other shareholders, his dad and a head of sales. Together, quarterly, they get together on strategic intent And what I do is I meet with the CEO like yesterday to help shape that strategic intent from his ideas to really validate it and shape it as a sounding board before he goes into each quarterly meeting. And this is exactly what his role is. But he is setting it because they're not in a position, not all shareholders are in the position to really own setting it right out of scaling up. And Vern Hart saying that's the CEO's job is to really set that. Then, of course, then you got to get that buy-in, communicate, clarify, so there's buy-in, but there's also input in the process, not just to tell, but to engage with in a way that the CEO says, I didn't think of that. And I think, George, that's what you just said. Bring up good strategic questions to do that.
Yes.
So then together you land on the right direction that you're going to rally around, lead, and execute on.
Yeah, and then do all the other things that we help the CEO understand it's important to do, create a what's in it for them, collaborative accountability, et cetera. It's interesting, Larry, you were in the room with Vern, respect, right? But he posited that the fundamental role of the CEO, and he asked the room, is strategy. And I agree with that, but I think there's a lot of implications there that I think just saying it's strategy doesn't address. And I have always said, I said long before I was in the room, and he asked actually, what is strategy? And I said, maximize shareholder value. And then he said, no, it's strategy. I'm
interrupting you, George. He was going to say no to everyone in the audience because that's his style.
Maybe it is.
I'm reading the chat, and Izzy put a word that I'm very particular about: articulate. I feel like, and maybe I overuse it. I love it because to me it means that you checked it, you understood it, you got the buy-in, and then you articulate what it is to whom. So maybe that instead of communicate, because communicating is after articulating in my chain of thinking. So that will be probably.
What I like about Larry's three-part approach is that we're trying to educate. In this document, we're educating. By the way, I'm typing something and you're going to like it, Silvana. The CEO, we're educating our client about truing up their role, right? You need to, if you want to, so hopefully we've defined strategic intent, or at least started a conversation about strategic intent, what this business must deliver and by when. It could be a lifestyle business today. It could be $100 million in 5 years, whatever that is. Just make this darn thing easier to run. Great. It's their business, right? Right. But this three-part approach that Larry used is a great, this could be a sentence because this is on the taking action. Taking action. Yes, it's on the taking action page. And this is the first paragraph they're going to read. And I like the three-part because if we say that they're going to articulate, gain buy-in, and lead. Lead achieving the strategic intent, aka the value that must be reached. And easier to run is
Bill had something to say earlier.
I'm sorry?
Bill wanted to say something earlier when we were talking, so I was curious to know what he was trying to say.
Well, thank you for noticing.
Sorry, Bill.
It strikes me that there is an ongoing interplay between shareholder and stakeholder value. I don't know what your experience is, but increasingly my conversations with senior people are about, I think a good word is articulate, but what they're trying to do and are forced more and more to do is set a direction amongst varying priorities of stakeholders and shareholders. I'm reminded, for example, of the quote from Henry Ford: "A business that makes only money is a poor business." In other words, what is your intent? What is your purpose? What are you trying to do in the world? And money is necessary, but not sufficient.
Wait,
and
Bill,
that
can you, I have
think,
not
is
heard this.
increasingly on point for senior people, particularly. I mean, look at what's happening to our country in this election. I mean, think about what employees expect their leaders to do. And it's not just make money, I don't think, but the idea of articulating, gaining buy-in and following a course of action, I think, is increasingly difficult. It's more and more nuanced. It doesn't diminish in any way, shape, or form growth drive, but it broadens the scope of what CEOs do, I think, and I might add boards. So that's what's going on in my world. So part of the problem is that the financial side of accounting for risk, sustainability, climate change, you pick the issue, is undetermined at this point. There's no, that I have found, maybe I'm missing something, but there doesn't seem to be an accepted and coherent methodology for saying, well, if I take risk out and gain a transferable value, what does that do to the valuation of the company if I've made smart investments in sustainability or climate or whatever? Well, the big guys, the big investors are there. They have been doing that for years because they see the risk. But most of the world, the mid-market and small guys, are fighting this increasingly every day, I think.
It's interesting. I'd love to see a data-driven article on that point, Bill. That's a good one.
Well,
you and I,
me too. They're increasingly evident, but they're not coherent or consistent yet.
Your conversation.
There are organizations that are trying to define reporting methodology and the link to equity valuation with sustainability investments, but they haven't landed on a coherent and agreed upon approach yet.
Well, and as so I'm an environmental attorney. As sustainability, let's just focus on sustainability. And Bill, your conversation, remember we had this conversation at this point. It's the only one to make the wall, right? Sustainability becomes a selling point, right? I am going to choose this or this. I'm going to buy this one because it's sustainable. This happens to be plastic and not sustainable at all, but the biodegradable Ziploc bags that are now in my kitchen drawer, they cost a little more money, but they're biodegradable. And I value that, and I will spend more money to support it. And sustainability, I think, is going to come in. The nose in the tent is innovation. And then
it's
culture.
Certainly there, George. There are certainly people whose buying criteria increasingly are influenced by their perception of how sustainable something is. I would also assert that the wise strategy, well articulated and carried out, has the effect of attracting customers, as you say, employees,
yes,
investors,
yes,
communities. In other words, the whole range of stakeholders, if it's done right. Now, it isn't always done right. There's a lot of washing still going on. But when it's done right, it attracts multiple key stakeholders, and it's very good for business.
Yeah, and that becomes part of the business.
It's not practiced. It's not down. It's not routinized, if you will. A lot of people pushing on that. Most business schools have stuff going in this direction now, but what's your guy? What are you hearing from your contacts and colleagues about this issue? Is it active, or is they've just decided on a track and they're staying with it, or what's going on?
Silvana?
Oh, yes. So I think, Bill, what you brought about sustainability, it's very near and dear to my heart. I think that there is the personal responsibility and the corporate responsibility. And ever since I left Booz in 2007, one of the things that I was looking at is, how do we turn corporate social responsibility, not just a do good, get an attaboy kind of thing, but bring data and bring, some sort of a framework to actually get that meaningfully done. And the way I see it is, I'm European. I've had the luck to see what's happening in both Europe and in Asia. They are behind, like ahead of America when it comes to that. I also see that even though the larger corporations that have adhered to the sustainability, I think that sometimes for certain ones, it becomes just a reporting mechanism to get another feather on their hat. And some of them take it really seriously. I think in our country, I see two things. Number one, we're behind. Number two, I think that we haven't quite come to the table to really say, okay, how we as a business people are going to treat this. And the third one, which I actually should have said earlier, is do the small middle market business have the opportunity or can afford to think of sustainability as part of their work? I'm not saying that they are not. I'm not saying they are. I have the feeling that they have so much in their plate that when it comes to sustainability, they see it more, in my humble opinion, as another way to differentiate, but not truly to live it and breathe it. And that's my concern. And so I'm thinking about that. What's your take, Bill?
The U.S. is behind, in my view. I mean, you just look at take back laws in Europe, for example. I think there's a methodology that is being espoused out of NYU Stern Business School called ROSI, Return on Sustainability Investment. And I think it's the current cutting edge of smart sustainability work. And its starting point is to define what's truly material for a business, right? So where you really hit, what's at risk, what's at stake, and you start with priorities in their approach. And it takes you through, it's great. I mean, go to the Center for Sustainable Business, New York Stern School of Business, and look at it, or I'll put the link in the chat. It's just really good stuff. And it's very cool. It's the farthest along I've seen of anything. I don't think it's 100% there because they're missing the connection to risk and valuation. But I think it goes a long way towards giving people tools. And I would love to work with a bunch of people on how would we bring together ROSI and Growth Drive. But I think the two could go hand in hand nicely.
Bill, post it in the community.
A working group to sort of figure out what could that look like.
Post it in the community, cool. Bill. I'm sure there are people who totally agree with you and would love to collaborate. I love that idea.
Well, what should we do? Let me well,
why don't we discuss it? We're coming up at the bottom of the hour, and I have to scoop. But if you post in the community the concept of ROSI, et cetera, I will chime in and let's start hammering it into a shape. And you could, I mean, this could be a conversation topic, a collaboration, a workshop, et cetera. I mean, there's a you're in.
I would love to make it into some form of action learning. We read some stuff, we all get smarter, and then try some stuff and sort of talk to each other about what do we do, learn, and achieve, and what's next. So there's an active translation of learning into let's try something. I would love to see it go in that direction over time. And we'll have to make choices and priorities about which segments and what size businesses and what types of people are open to this and which aren't yet, et cetera, et cetera. But
very cool.
Okay,
Let's do it. That's what the community is for.
About this, and hopefully we can start a dialogue.
Absolutely. George, I have a request.
Okay, we're about to run out of time. Silvana, your request.
Oh, for future, Bill brought something up which is very important.
Yes.
It was the notion of shareholder value versus stakeholder value. I think the balance of that and hitting that right has got an immediate impact on the bottom line of the company valuation. So maybe in the future we can have like a whole conversation about that.
Let's do it next Tuesday. Right?
There are a number of groups out there, B Corp, Conscious Capitalists, Tugboat Institute, that are all working on this exact issue. And so I will include their URLs in some kind of posting that say, if you've got an hour to browse,
please do.
Your beer in your favorite armchair and go look. And that will inform us all, I think, a little bit. But we'll have to, next Tuesday would be great. We'll try to set an agenda.
Let's do it.
With some boundaries around it so we can do something and away we go.
If you can post in the Klatsch, you guys jump out. This is the one time a week we can discuss anything we want. I love it. Guys, we have 1 minute left.
Thank you.
Can we just do, I know there are only 5 of us, but 3 of you. A quick key takeaway. Start with Bill.
Well, thank you for being open to this issue, because I don't find that people are all open to this issue, but I think it's very real and substantive. So thank you.
I agree. And stakeholders are woven throughout the methodology. So you can go into execute guidance and search for stakeholders, and you'll find a few references.
Thank you.
Steve,
okay, I will.
Steve Duke, key takeaway. You're muted, my man. By the way, you can hit the space bar and it'll unmute you.
Yeah. I was saying that I like the conversation about strategic intent because it all starts with that.
Yeah, and you'll see strategic intent as a concept introduced in Clarity Level 1. That's a change that we're just gonna add it as a, so you can start the conversation. Silvana, Izzy, you're next.
Same here. Strategic intent. Intent is a very core word in my life.
Mm-hmm.
So I like the idea of connecting the strategy and the intent because it makes everything, more specific.
Well, and I've replaced the word want in key places in this report with the word intend. For example, get total clarity about what you need to do to get the success you intend.
Yeah.
Very powerful. I agree. Izzy, key takeaway? Thanks for sitting through this whole thing.
No, totally. I think it was really important how we sort of just touched on it a little bit, but just discussing, what it should look like with those like daily, weekly, monthly meetings within, a business, especially with the CEO. And I think talking about it next Tuesday, also with the difference of the shareholder and stakeholder values, I think those two will just definitely flow into each other. So if we talked about it, we could even come up with something, George, like it could be a PDF of what those could look like to help a business function more properly.
Yeah, let's do that. After next week, we'll have the recording and we can I think that's a great idea. A great idea. Thanks, Izzy.
Nice to meet you, Izzy.
Nice to meet all of you. Yes, of course.
Super fun conversation. And by the way, what we cooked up is now in the report. And whenever you see it, you can be like, you know what? I had a part in that. Yeah. So, all right, guys. Cool. Thank you. You have a great week. If you need anything, let me know. We're here to help. Okay.
Okay. Thanks, everyone.
Talk soon.
Bye-bye.
Bye.